Welcome everybody back to the channel. Hopefully you can hear the excitement in my voice. Hopefully you can see me standing here. I didn't realize I'm wearing a fair bit of camo tonight. It wasn't intentional, but I am pretty cold, so that's what I'm wearing. More importantly, can you see what's on this bench? It's a whole lot of adventure riding gear, and that can only mean one thing, that me and potentially a couple other guys are going on one big epic trip, 4,200 kilometers, over 8 days, big days, Sydney, Cameron's Corner, Flinders Ranges, and then zigzagging all the way back to Sydney. I am super pumped. By the time this video goes live, I'll be pretty much on my way out to the Flinders Ranges. But I thought, why not speak about all the gear that I bring for such a trip? I get asked all the time about the things that I carry. 5 categories: luggage, camping gear, camera gear, tools, and the food to keep me going. But hey, 5 categories, let's get straight into it. Category number 1, luggage. So to start with, I will be using Krieger OS bags. On the bike behind the camera, I've got my base plate, which is pretty much always on the bike. But 2 18-litre OS bags will be going on the bike on the sides, fully waterproof. You don't have to double wrap anything. I mean, it's just such a secure product. I really love it. It keeps everything obviously dry, and they hold quite a fair bit of stuff, so that's really good. On top of that, I've got a brand new 12-litre bag, which I haven't even used yet. That will be going on the back of my rack as a standalone bag there. And where we're going, I need to carry water. I always have a fear of being stuck out there for a few days at a time if I don't make it to my destinations. Because who knows what happens. So I want to carry extra water. So 1 each of these will be going on the back end of the 18-litre side bags. And I can hold about a litre bottle, maybe a little bit more if I squeeze it in there. But that's going to be emergency water there. And finally, and this brand here, this is Wolfman. This is a very old one. This is from my dad's kit who passed away many years ago. So I've rarely used these. I think I've only used them at Cape York and now this trip. So they're coming with me. And then my trusty Nelson Rig waterproof tank bag. I love this thing. This will carry all my camera gear, a bit of food, and maybe my mobile phone. But this has proven its worth for me. It's fully waterproof. I've never had any dramas with it. I love having this little window where I can put a photo or a map. So for this particular trip, my dad will be coming with me again. But it's small enough that when I stand, it fits between my legs, and pretty much every single ride I take this bag. So that is all the luggage that I'll be taking on the bike. Anything that doesn't fit in those bags is pretty much not coming with me. I don't want to be like the old apprentice adventurer where I'd strap my whole house to my bike. I'm trying to streamline things as I move on in life. I will be carrying, to my left over here, a camel pack or some sort of backpack to carry more water, more food. But ultimately, in terms of the bike, that is the only luggage I'm going to be carrying for 8 days. So hopefully it's going to do the job. So that brings us to category number 2, which is all my camping gear and overnight gear. I guess I'll go on record. At this point in my life, I'm not after a comfortable night out there. I'm trying to be as comfortable as possible, but I go with the bare minimum. I just want to be weatherproof. And if I want a comfortable night, I'll just strategically slot in a pub stay or a motel stay out there. Otherwise, I just want to be able to sleep, wake up in the morning and keep going. So for me, what that looks like, I recently got a new tent because my other one, after 5 years, it sort of let itself go. But I got a 2-man tent. This one allows me to sit a fair bit of my gear in and under the overall tarp of the tent. Otherwise, I barely fit in this thing. My feet are always sort of bashed up against the edge of the tent, but it does the job. I've got a $40 Amazon inflatable mattress with a built-in pillow. I find these cheaper ones are more comfortable than the more expensive ones. $40 overnight delivery, you can't go wrong. I have a sleeping bag. I've got 3 of these, which I've collected over the years. They're about a decade old, but this one here is a 0-degree sleeping bag. I may or may not bring this particular one, but they're all around the same size. And then I also have another Amazon product, one of those chairs that all clicks into place when you open them up. Look, it's pretty big, but one thing I've realized when I've been out on those Outback trips is sometimes the floor, even though, or should I say the ground, it's very sandy, but oddly enough can be very uncomfortable and full of thorns and spiky bushes. So you've got to bring a chair. I'll make that fit. And then in terms of What do I use around the campfire? For cooking, I just have this little pot, which is collapsible. So I bring that with me to heat up all my water for my dehydrated meals. I then also have a cup, which is collapsible, and then that can actually fit into, if it just wants to click into place, they fit in together. So that's what I heat my water up and have my drinks with. I have my little burner here, which obviously connects into one of these little gas cylinders, which I'm sure everybody's well aware of. So that's to make fire and also to heat up all my water or food. I bring a multi-purpose spoon slash fork slash knife slash a few other little gizmos. It's like a Swiss Army knife of cooking utensils. So I've got that. I then coincidentally have a Swiss Army knife of sorts. So this is a pretty decent Leatherman. So I bring that just for, you never know, it's only small and it has a whole lot of functionality, I guess would be the word. I always bring a Bushman spray. I always bring a small little deodorant can because I might not shower for 8 days and you get pretty stinky out there with the same clothes on day in, day out. I have a little head torch. That's pretty much a safety thing. You need to have one of those with a handful of batteries. Obviously a lighter. And then I just bring a little kid's toothbrush and a little overnight sort of toothpaste pouch there. And that is my overnight gear. That is all I use to camp with and cook with. And anything beyond that would be because I've found a spare spot in my luggage to squeeze in a bit of a luxury item. But otherwise, that is all I am bringing for my overnight stuff. Category number 3, I'm just going to label as electronics and camera gear, I guess. I make all these videos on YouTube, but I can assure you my setup is as basic as it comes. So coming with me will be the camera that I'm filming with now, my GoPro 12 and Media Mod. I am using my Rode wireless microphones. I won't bring them with me, but for whatever reason, I have no interference with these. Whereas my Saramonic ones, I get interference in the garage, but out in the bush, these ones work far better. So, you know, go figure, whatever. But my camera gear, yes, the one I just mentioned, I've got a spare GoPro 9, which has got a cracked screen. This is like an emergency camera, really. I just bring it in case I need a backup. I do have a dual battery charging station, which I will normally charge 2 batteries whilst I'm riding. And I normally go through 2 batteries per day, so 2 on charge whilst I'm using 2. As a total though, I've got 5 batteries, 1 in each camera and 3 spares. Mobile phone. This is a repurposed mobile phone where the camera no longer works. I actually ran this phone on one of my trips out 3 years ago to the same sort of location, and the corrugations ruined my phone. So I won't make that mistake again. I do have a dampener now on my phone holder, but I don't trust that fully. So this will be navigation, and I'll have my normal phone in my pocket and or in my tank bag. As I just mentioned, I will bring my Saramonic wireless microphone for maybe some filming around the campsite or whatnot. In here, I've had so many bad experiences with GoPros. To the credit of the 12, it hasn't let me down once yet, but the old GoPro 9 used to always let me down. SD cards, I've got so many SD cards in here because I just don't trust any of it because I've lost so much footage over the years. So I carry about 10 SD cards in here just in case something goes wrong. And I'll use 1 SD card per day just in case I lose footage as the trip goes on. I've got more footage to use with the other days that were successful. I do have my emergency PLB, pretty basic setup for, I guess, sending out for help. But if shit goes real bad out there, that will get me out of trouble. So I do carry that. And then just a trusty tripod. And that is all the, I guess, technology and electronics that I bring on such a trip. And it's always gotten the job done. There's no drone, there's nothing fancy. No doubt down the track I'll get something like that. But for now, and for the years that have been past, this is all I've had to use. So no dramas at all. Category number 4 for me is my tools. A very heavily debated topic of do you bring more, do you bring less? I've always been of the opinion and have actually put it into practice is to bring more. Granted, I've had one major breakdown which I couldn't fix, but that was probably not fixable on the side of the road anyway, where my carby slide broke and shot into the intake of my engine. But I guess being a preventative measure as well, I've done all the servicing on my motorbike. It is leaving in the best possible condition it can. But what I bring, let's just get into it. Let's start left from right. So this here is a homemade center stand. So I get a flat tire, I can have the rear wheel elevated. I don't mind carrying such a thing. It's adjustable as well and digs really well into the dirt. 3 tire levers. I used to carry 2, but 3 works better for me, I can assure you that. I've got a little handheld pump. I've never brought myself to getting a little battery powered pump, so this pumps plenty of air into the tire, so I just carry that with me. A couple of, what have I got? 3 spare buckles or straps that I need if I have to tie anything down, or in my experience, I have broken straps off bags before. Touch wood, the Krieger ones have been going good, but you never know how valuable they can be until you don't have them. Overkill, I know, but I always bring a pair of multi-grips. I just find that pretty handy to grab nuts and bolts that are hard to reach with your fingers. Zip ties. I mean, you can pretty much hold a bike together with zip ties, and the corrugations will test every nut and bolt on your bike, so these are your backup. A bit of electrical tape, sometimes Gorilla tape, whatever I've got going, but always bring some tape. Here I have spare spokes, and I also have a tool to replace bearings. I don't normally bring this on a day trip, but I will be bringing it on this particular trip. I would rather be able to fix a bearing out there with ease than to not, because a broken bearing is pretty much a trip-ending experience, really. So why not just bring a spare set of bearings and the tool? I'm happy to carry the extra weight. Tubes, I've got 2 rear. I will have 2 front. Anything over more than 2 nights or whatnot, or where I'm going far from home, I'm always bringing 2 of these bad boys. I'd rather get a flat, replace it, and then be comfortable knowing I've got a spare again. And then that night at the campsite, I'll try to get the old rubber and glue out and try to put a patch on the broken one. So always have 4 tubes. I know some people will put in a front into a rear. I'm not doing that. I'm just carrying 4 tubes. I'm happy to do so. A litre of oil. The Paul DRZ, the Suzuki, 100k an hour all day long. From day one, mine has, most of them do, they just use oil. And I would rather carry this and not need it than to go without. But if my experience, my bike around that 4,000 kilometre mark, I'll probably go over half of this oil in terms of keeping that fully topped up to the brim. So I am bringing that. No, there's nothing wrong with my bike. It runs just fine. If you go and speak to any good wrecker, they'll tell you that these bikes use oil when you're doing those high speeds all day long. Where I'm going, because I'm riding with potentially 2 other guys, I'm definitely riding with one other guy, Rowan. I'm bringing a pre-oiled air filter because I'm going to be caught in dust and whatnot. If I was going solo, I would not bring this. I would not need it. But because I'm riding with others, I am bringing that. A bit of spare heat shield material. You never know, you might burn a hole or something. You can repurpose that. I am bringing my famous, I always get laughed at, spare clutch cable, spare accelerator cable. I've got them here. I'm putting them in my bags because I'd rather just be able to replace it if one breaks and be done with it. These 2 tools here, obviously they're pretty obvious what they are, but they replace, or should I say take off and put on my 2 tires or my 2 wheels, and I actually keep them in my tank bag because if I get a flat, I can get these out really, really easily, because otherwise all the tools being heavy, they're always at the bottom of the bags, and it's just a pain in the ass to dig out a tool when I can just keep that in my tank bag or for adjusting the chain. I'm not going to go through all of these bags individually, but first aid kit, that is the human tool bag, so you need one of those. In here is a jump starter kit and spare cables for charging things and whatnot in case cables break. I have had that before when my iPhone cable broke and I was going without any sort of phone to be able to ring my wife and whatnot for a few days. So I have got a charger kit and spare cables in there. In this bag here, miscellaneous, nuts and bolts, wheel spacers, spare clutch lever, all very lightweight stuff. This weighs no more than about 300 grams, but I've got lots of little, I guess, gadgets and little spare parts in there to get the bike out of trouble. This heavy sucker is all of my sockets, spanners. I've got spare chain in here. I've got 2 joiner links in here. I've got a chain breaker in here. I've also got a tire puncture repair kit in here. I've also got gasket maker, and I've also got stuff, what's it called? I can't remember its name, but stuff to fix a leaking radiator if need be, where you can, a JB Weld, that's what it's called, JB Weld in here. So there's lots of stuff in here, probably an overkill for some, but for me, it fits, I don't care. It sits at the bottom of the bag, job done. And then in here, I will open this one. I only bring this on big trips, not overnighters, but Loctite. I do have spare rear and front bearings because I would much rather just replace bearings on the road and be able to continue my trip. I bring a spare charging, charging socket, because if mine breaks, I rely on this for all my filming, so I do bring a spare one of those, and a spare cable set for that same charging outlet. And then even things like spare fuel hose, get the bearings out, the bearing removal tool. And then this socket here I don't even need, but I bring it because it fits perfectly on the bearing. So if I have to hit it in there, I'm not doing it with some dodgy stick out in the bush. I can get those bearings in pretty well, and it still fits in this one bag. So I'm happy to do that. No dramas at all. FYI, I don't carry oil. I don't carry half of these bags on overnighters, but when you're going so far from home and my time is so valuable out there, I would not want to have to have a trip-ending breakdown like I have in the past, when it could have been something I could have fixed. Hence why I bring all this stuff. So what, an extra kilo? Who cares? I'll just lose a kilo of body weight before I head out there. And so that's all the tools I'm bringing. So that brings us to category number 5, which is the food that I'm bringing on such a trip. Once again, I'm going to go on record. I don't go out there to try to gain weight and feel overfed. By absolutely no means do I do that. What I do is try to bring enough food to keep me alive, thus going as light as possible. I'm also a celiac, which totally sucks. It's not by choice, so I'm gluten-free. So I do need to bring a few extra things, because sometimes I get out to these places, they've got no, they just look at me like I'm an alien. They go, what is gluten-free? Which is, I guess, expected. But when I do come across a pub that can accommodate, I have been very well known to spend $50, $60, $70, whatever it takes, and I'll get 3 steak sandwiches, I'll get 3 piles of steak, whatever it has to be to sort of fuel my body. Otherwise, I bring enough just to get by. So what that looks like for me, canned sardines, canned red salmon, because canned fish tastes awesome and it just sits in a can. I've got these little keto type snacks, which are very high in fat, so a lot of energy to be had from them for how big they are. I've got a squirtable honey and peanut butter. Once again, for breakfast, you put some of this in your mouth and it's quick and easy and you're good to go. Don't bring glass containers, because I've done that before and they break pretty much. So I always bring the plastic ones. These bottles will probably become bigger as the trip gets closer, but 2 spare bottles of water for my water holders over here. They're my emergency water, so I always will have them. I've got some nut bars. I came across these online, some forager fruits, blueberry and strawberry, dehydrated fruit pretty much. No calories in them, but maybe a nice snack. I do have a bucket load of, I love these. It's called Tom and Luke's, I guess, bliss balls is what I would call them, but high calories and they taste good and they last well in the bags. I'm bringing some pork crackle. Don't know why, it was sitting in my cupboard. That'll probably be dust by the time I open it with all the vibrations. But more importantly, my main dinners, 3 scrambled eggs and 3 minced beef. I don't like having the dehydrated meals that have every number and alphabet under the sun as their ingredient. So these being freeze-dried, not necessarily dehydrated, I just add a bit of water, mix them up, but it's only got the eggs and the meat in it. There's no other additives really that would be of concern. So much more healthier, and I feel like you digest it a lot better. The problem with those other dehydrated meals, they'll get you through, but they might read it's got 1,000 calories on it, but I can assure you, unless you've got the perfect digestive system, you're not absorbing those calories. It just goes straight through the system. It's all fake food. This stuff here, I find I do digest much better and get the calories out of the actual food. So for me, half of this mince, half of this eggs, mix them in together, and that will be my dinner with some taco seasoning. The advantage of the freeze-dried meals is if you run out of the ability to heat water, you can just put cold water in them. They just need to have water. It'll probably taste like rubbish, but if you can't heat up your water, you can get by with just chucking in cold water. So that's the food I'm bringing, very basic, very minimal, but I guess that brings me back to the Krieger bags. All of this stuff in those bags are always going to be the same in terms of filling out those bags and keeping the bags nice and tight. But as the food runs down, my 12-litre bag, as you start removing sort of substance from the bag, it's very hard to tighten the bags, I guess, beyond the halfway point. So I think for me, as the food goes down, I'll just keep empty bottles and I'll just put the bottle in there just to keep the puffiness of the bag so I can then tighten it around my rear rack. Otherwise, that bag's going to be, I guess, falling off. So I guess a bit of advice, if you're not used to the Krieger bags, is as good as they are, as soon as you take stuff out of the guts of them, they don't tighten that well anymore. So those bottles will get me out of trouble. So there you have it, guys. All of this stuff, I need to pack in the bags. I've got to try not get too excited because I've still got a few days to go. I've got to get this all on the bike, and then the next scene is I'll actually film the bike quickly. I'll show you the setup, and I keep pointing over there because that's where my bike is. And I'll show you the extra little additives that I've put on the bike that I don't normally run unless I'm doing these big trips. So let me get to that and then I'll pick up the filming with the bike. So here Sally is, guys. It's a couple of days later. Everything's on the bike as should be. And I'll tell you what, and hopefully you agree, Sally is looking the best she ever has for a week-long trip. I don't know, it looks like I know what I'm doing is what I reckon it is. It just looks the real deal, fit for purpose. But in order not to drag this video out, let's start from sort of front to back and then top to down and go over everything that's on this bike for such a trip that is otherwise different to my normal local rides. And let's start with the wind visor. So I've got a wind visor on here. Look, it's not that great to keep air away from my head, but it does keep a fair bit of, I guess, wind buffering from my chest. Day one, I'm trying to do 1,100 kilometers on the tar at 100k an hour. Probably not possible. It's going to be a PB, but that's what I'm aiming for. So any form of fatigue protection I will take. But more importantly for me, I feel like it keeps, well, I know it does, it keeps a lot of wind and dirt and gunk away from my cockpit, and I'm always charging something. So I think it's good just to keep that as clean as I can so nothing goes wrong. So I do have the visor. Coming back here, my $20 lamb's wool seat cover. That just takes the edge, even though I've got a comfort seat, it just takes the edge off those long trips. So I do have that sitting there, which can sort of be moved back and forward like so. So I've got that coming. Then I've also installed my rear rack. Obviously I've got a top bag, so I need to have a rear rack, but that also just allows me to tie other things from here back that way. So I'm pretty happy with that. And then if we go down, I have got a new front and rear tire. Look, I'm doing over 4,000 kilometers. Of course, I'm going to put a new set of tires. But my sponsor, Mono from Motorcycle Tire Warehouse, he thought, let's give Lance something he's never used before. So I'm actually running a set of Mitas Rock Riders. I've been assured they're the real deal. I've been assured they'll last the trip, but I'm going in blind on this, guys. I've never heard of a tire, but hey, why won't I try a new set of tires? Because if they're good, I can let you guys know about that as another option for your bike as well. But I tell you what, looking down now, they look the real deal. So I'm pretty keen to see how they go. I'll bring myself around the front here. My bike was due for this anyway, but a new drivetrain. So I've got a new chain, a new front 15 sprocket. And for the first time ever, I'm running a 43 rear because I got the big ball kit. I wouldn't do that on a standard engine. And I've done about 50 kilometers so far on it. And I tell you what, at 110, 120, it is amazing in terms of how different that is compared to the 44. So I am going to try that. I'll be keen to see how it goes long term, and I can give some advice on that as well after the fact. Otherwise, I'll grab the camera and I'll show you what the setup looks like. So this is what the bike looks like from the top looking down. Tank bag, pretty standard. 2 18-litre Krieger bags. This is new, a 12-litre Krieger bag. This has got all of my food, which is pretty easy to access each night. But I couldn't really fit my collapsible chair in, but that's pretty rock solid there. Allows a lot of space in the cockpit. But more importantly, I'm pretty happy with this actually because I can put the day's food in here, and it's much easier to access the food in there than it is out of here. So pretty happy how that worked out. I've also got a 1 litre bottle on my leg side of the bag because it doesn't fit on the back side. There's no mounting points, doesn't get in my way. But then I've also got another litre bottle at the rear here. So that allows me to carry 2 additional litres of water along with my 2.5 litres of water that will likely be on my back. So there you go, guys. Hopefully this video gives you a little bit of an insight to what I bring for a week-long trip. I believe I've got a pretty down pat now, and each time I do get a little bit lighter and a little bit better. The only thing I've left out is a couple of items of clothing, which I have packed in there, some undies and socks, that sort of stuff. But I'm chuffed, I'm super happy. I can't wait to go. A few more days and I'm out of here. Please, please tag along. It's gonna be from Sydney to Flinders Ranges and back with a whole lot of exploring in and between the areas as well. Subscribe so you can follow along with the videos, but like always, thank you for the support. I hope you got something out of this video, and I'll catch you out in the Flinders Ranges somewhere.